Hello, this is the Watchdog, and welcome back to Fun with Watches. If watches weren't fun, you'd only need one. Today we're going to review the Addiesdive AD2119 with a California dial. Let's start out with the wrist check. I'm wearing an Addiesdive NI2332, and Greg was wearing a Chensky 8848. We were watching the big Imperial payroll robbery on Andor, and I asked Grogu how come his galaxy has developed faster than light speed travel, but still hasn't developed some form of electronic currency. He said the Republic tried that long ago and it was a disaster. They had developed one called Coin Option Wealth, which became known as COWS, and another one called Benefit Exchange Alternative Notes, which became known as Beans. Well, one day the value of beans increased by magic, so everyone traded their cows for the magic beans, which grew the beanstalk, which was a giant mistake, and the whole thing came crashing down. All right, let's take a look at the watch. It comes in this nice plastic case. It protects the watch very well. It's got that foam there. And of course, we have the hang tag, the unsigned warranty card, and the instructions. So let's just go ahead and move that aside. When it comes to Addiesdive watches, two things come to mind. Dive watches because of the dive in the name, and Steel Dive because some models look almost identical to Steel Dive, plus their logo looks very similar to a Steel Dive logo. This Addiesdive is clearly not a dive watch, and I don't see anything like it when looking at Steel Dive. This is a big watch with a California dial and one of the nicest leather straps I've ever reviewed. The California dial was originally developed by Rolex for legibility during World War II, and oddly enough became popular in Japan during the 80s boom. A company in California started reprinting modern Rolexes with this dial to meet the demand, and thus it became known as the California dial. If you don't like California dials, they do make colorways with an Explorer type dial, but these dials are only in white. The watch is 43.5 millimeters if you measure at the bezel, but 44 millimeters at the case. 49.1 millimeters lug to lug, is only 12.8 millimeters thick, and that includes this dome crystal. Has a 22 millimeter lug width and weighs 98 grams in the supplied leather strap. This is not a dive watch, so the bezel is just plain and smooth, but it's very nice and does the job. Then if you look at the dial, you have this blue texture. It kind of looks kind of like a meteor texture, kind of. You kind of like see little craters and dots. So it's a nice look. And then the indices have this photina to them, which is a nice look also. And this, of course, is a California dial. You got Roman numerals up top, the numerics on the bottom, and the batons at the 3, 6, and 9, and a triangle at the 12. This was supposed to increase legibility during the war. But it's just kind of fun. Then, as you can see, we have the Addiesdive logo printed on top in white. And then it says automatic, and then has the depth rating on the bottom in red. One thing about red, though, it just doesn't show up very well on dark colors. So I don't know if it's the smartest thing to do when you have a dark blue dial or black. Then we have this train track chapter ring. And then you got the fence post hands with a lollipop second hand. And everything is loomed. And this being an Addiesdive, the loom is pretty good. We'll show that later. The crown is a signed screw down. You can see the Addiesdive logo there. And it's kind of small for this size of watch. Wish it was a bit bigger. But the action is good and it pops nicely and it screws down nicely. But one thing I noticed too, though, is when you hack it, when you go to press it in, see, a lot of times it doesn't press right away, and you have to do it several times, which is kind of annoying. I don't know if it's a feature of the NH38, because it definitely doesn't ever do that on NH35s, and I seem to remember another NH38 I've reviewed having difficulty with the crown. The crystal is a double dome sapphire, And I got out the diamond tester and verified it is indeed sapphire. They also claimed AR coating, and I can believe it. The reflection isn't too bad for sapphire. So yeah, I like the crystal. And since it's double dome, you don't get a lot of distortion effect or anything. The case is solid stainless steel, and it's a bead blasted, not brushed or polished. But it's a nice looking case. It's, like I said, it's fairly thin for a watch this big. And then the case back is a screw down. We have the Addiesdive logo, and then it says all stainless steel, automatic movement. It says NH35, but I could have swore that the specs said NH38. Let's see if there's a ghost date there or not. No, there's no ghost date. This is at NH38. So I guess they forgot to update the case back. Well, that's not a big deal. I mean, an NH38 is just an NH35 without a date. But it's a nice looking case back. It just would have been nice if it matched. Powering the watch is the NH38 movement. This is basically the NH35 without a date wheel, or so that way you don't have a ghost date. Once again, though, I've had difficulty pushing in the crown on these NH38s before, so I don't know if there's something different about them or if it's just pure luck that I got two in a row. That was difficult to push in the crown. You don't see a lot of NH38s just because they order so many NH35s. I'm sure they get a discount on the bulk order, and probably don't get as much of a discount on NH38s. And since the ghost date really isn't that big of a deal, except for real picky people, that it just makes more sense to use an NH35. Here it is on the time grapher. As you can see, those are some pretty good numbers. +3, -1. And not much beat error, so you got a smooth line there. So yeah, this one's running spot on just about. Then we have the strap. This is a really nice leather strap. Look at this. Very thick. Has a really good look to it. And yeah, I really think this is a good strap. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't have quick release, and I wish it did. Also, it's got these little screws here, so I thought, well, maybe it doesn't have spring bars. Maybe you have to unscrew it. So I got out my little screwdriver and unscrewed it, and it looks like these caps are just strictly decorative. And look at this, I lost one. I unscrewed it and dumped it on the carpet. And I've been having a heck of a time trying to find it. I ordered a magnet on Amazon, so hopefully I can, once I get the magnet, I'll be able to find it in the carpet. But yeah, then I thought, well, maybe you can take the screws off and you can use this as a drilled lug. But no, I took a tool and pressed it in, and it will not press in the spring bar. So these holes are strictly decorative. And then the buckle's nice, it's sturdy, matches the case. And of course, though, if I keep this, and I might have to, because if I can't find that screw, I'm not going to be able to sell this. If I do sell it, it'll have to be at a significant discount. Then I will get a deployment clasp, though, because it'll just save this leather strap. Here it is on my 7.5-inch wrist. Looks nice. It's a big watch. So if you have a tiny wrist, I don't know, it's up to you. But it sits nice and flat. And it looks like I got 3 notches left on the strap. So you can wear this if you have about an 8 1/4. But yeah, I really like this strap. Plus the watch is comfortable. And since it doesn't have a steel bracelet, this big watch is fairly light. Here we are in the loom room. Addiesdive tend to have pretty good looms, so I have pretty good expectations for this test. As we speed up the time, we see the lume is pretty good. Some of the indices are not as good as the hands, but so what? As long as the hands are the best thing on the watch, then that's a win for Addiesdive, because you always want the hands to be the most lumed. And this being a dive watch, you don't have a lume pip or anything. But no, this is good lume. It's not awesome, but it's pretty darn good. What do I like about this watch? Well, I like the California dial. It's just kind of fun to say. I don't know what purpose it serves, but it's just cool. I like this dial texture. Just adds a little character to it. I like this awesome leather strap. This is about as good as you can get for this price. I like the Fotina. It just matches everything, makes it look cool. And it's got pretty good lume. What are my gripes and groans? No quick release on the strap. And these fake screw caps can be deceiving. I lost one just because I thought it was real. The crown's a little small, and pushing it in after hacking it can be kind of difficult. Do I recommend this watch? Sure, this watch is great. Great leather strap, nice looks, good lume, wears good. So yeah, I recommend this watch. Well, thank you for watching my review of the Addiesdive 2119, and I will be back with another review. More than likely, I'll do that swish and just get it out of the way. Be sure and like and subscribe to my channel. Bye.